The first thing my sister said when I came home after my wedding was, "You don't belong here anymore." Then she slammed the door directly in my face. I stood there frozen, still holding the small gift bag I had brought for my mother. I had imagined this moment for weeks. I imagined my mother hugging me. I imagined my father smiling. I imagined my sister, Emily, teasing me about married life the way she always used to. Instead, I was standing outside the house where I had grown up, staring at a closed door. My name is Claire, and that afternoon was the moment I discovered that sometimes the people who share your blood can become complete strangers. But what happened next changed everything. 3 weeks earlier, I had gotten married. It wasn't a huge wedding. My husband, Daniel, and I had a small ceremony with close family and friends. Daniel wasn't rich, but he was kind, hardworking, and protective. My parents had always liked him, or at least I thought they did. My older sister Emily was different. She had never liked Daniel. She always said he was too ordinary for me. "You could do better," she would tell me. I never understood what she meant. Daniel had a steady job, treated me with respect, and never made me feel like I wasn't enough. That was more than money could buy. After the wedding, Daniel and I moved into our small apartment across town. It wasn't fancy. The kitchen was tiny. The living room had second-hand furniture. But every morning, when Daniel kissed my forehead before leaving for work, I felt like I had finally built a home of my own. Then came my first visit to my parents' house after the wedding. I wanted to surprise my mother. I bought her favorite flowers and a little gift. Daniel was working that day, so I drove there alone. As soon as I reached the front door, I rang the bell. Emily opened it. She looked at me for several seconds. No smile, no hug, nothing. "Hi, Emily," I said. She stared at the flowers in my hand. Then she looked back at me. "What are you doing here?" I laughed nervously. "I'm visiting Mom and Dad." Her face hardened. "You should have called first." "I'm sorry. I thought I'd surprise them." She stepped outside and quietly closed the door behind her. My smile disappeared. "Is everything okay?" She folded her arms. "You're married now." I nodded. "I know. You have your own home." "Yes. So why are you here?" I didn't understand. "Because this is my home too. I grew up here." Emily's eyes narrowed. "No, you don't belong here anymore." I stared at her. "What?" She stepped closer. "You hurt me." Then she turned around, opened the door halfway, and slammed it in my face. I stood there for several seconds. My hand was still holding the flowers. One of the petals had fallen onto the doorstep. I felt tears filling my eyes, but I refused to cry. I knocked again. "Emily, please, just let me talk to Mom." No answer. I knocked harder. Finally, I heard my mother's voice from inside. "Emily, who is it?" Emily answered loudly. "Nobody. Nobody." That word hurt more than the slammed door. I walked back to my car. I placed the flowers on the passenger seat. Then I started crying. But something didn't make sense. Why would Emily suddenly treat me like that? And why had my mother not opened the door? That night, I told Daniel everything. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he asked, "Did she say anything else?" "No." He took my hand. "Claire, something is wrong." "I know. Your family isn't telling you something." Those words stayed in my mind. The next morning, I called my mother. She didn't answer. I called my father. He answered after several rings. "Dad." There was silence. Then he said, "Claire, sweetheart." His voice sounded strange. "What's happening?" "Nothing." "Dad." Emily slammed the door in my face yesterday. Another silence. "Where's Mom?" "She isn't feeling well. Can I come see her?" "No." The answer came too quickly. My heart dropped. "Why?" "I'll call you later." Then he hung up. That was when I knew. They were hiding something. For the next few days, I tried calling. Nobody answered. Then, one evening, I received a text from my mother. "Please don't come to the house for now." No explanation. Nothing else. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about Emily's face, about my father's nervous voice, about my mother's message. Then I remembered something. Before my wedding, my father had asked me to sign some papers. He told me they were related to an old family property. I had been busy with wedding preparations, so I signed them without reading everything carefully. Suddenly I wondered, what exactly had I signed? The next morning, I called my father's lawyer. He was an old family friend named Mr. Harris. At first, he sounded surprised to hear from me. "Claire, I thought your father had already explained everything." "Explained what?" "He went quiet. Maybe you should come to my office." I drove there immediately. Mr. Harris placed a thick folder on his desk. Then he looked directly at me. "Claire, your father changed his will 6 months ago." I swallowed. What does that have to do with me? He opened the folder. "The family house was supposed to be divided equally between you and Emily." I stared at him. "Supposed to be?" He nodded. "Your father changed that arrangement shortly before your wedding." My heart started pounding. What did he change? Mr. Harris turned the document toward me. He transferred the house into Emily's name. I couldn't breathe. "Why?" He hesitated. "Because Emily told your father that you were planning to take the house after getting married." My eyes widened. "That isn't true." "I know." "What?" Mr. Harris sighed. "Your father came to me last week. He wanted to reverse the transfer." "Then why didn't he?" "Because he was afraid." "Afraid of what?" Mr. Harris looked at me. "Your sister." I felt like the room had suddenly become smaller. "Emily threatened him." He nodded slowly. She told him that if he changed the property arrangement again, she would reveal something that could destroy the family. My voice trembled. What could she possibly know? Mr. Harris closed the folder. "That's something you need to ask your sister." I left his office with more questions than answers. When I reached my car, I called Emily. She answered. "What?" "Why did you tell Dad I wanted the house?" Silence. Then she laughed. "You went to see Mr. Harris, didn't you?" My stomach dropped. "How did you know?" "Because Dad told me." "So it's true." "What do you want, Claire?" "I want the truth." She became quiet. Then she said something that I will never forget. "You always got everything." "What?" "Mom's attention. Dad's praise. Everyone felt sorry for you." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Emily, I was your sister. You were always the favorite." "That isn't true." "It doesn't matter anymore." "What did you threaten Dad with?" She hung up. I immediately drove to my parents' house. This time I didn't knock. I called my father. "Dad, I'm outside." He came to the door. He looked exhausted. The moment he saw me, his eyes filled with tears. "Claire." I hugged him. He held me tightly. Then he whispered, "I'm sorry." Those 2 words broke me. "What happened?" He looked over his shoulder. "Come inside." My mother was sitting in the living room. She started crying when she saw me. "Mom." She stood up and hugged me. "I wanted to open the door that day." "Why didn't you?" She looked toward the hallway. "Emily wouldn't let me." My father sat down. Then he told me everything. Emily had been secretly struggling with enormous debt. She had borrowed money from several people. She had even taken loans using documents connected to the family property. When my father discovered what she had done, he confronted her. Emily panicked. She threatened to tell everyone that my father had once used money from the family business to pay off a debt years ago. It wasn't illegal, but it was something my father had kept secret from my mother. Emily used that secret to control him. Then she convinced him that I was going to take the house after marriage. She wanted the entire property transferred to her. My mother wiped away her tears. We were scared she'd lose everything. I looked at my father. "Dad, you almost lost me." He lowered his head. "I know." I was angry. I was hurt. But more than anything, I was heartbroken. My own family had allowed me to stand outside their door like a stranger. Then Emily walked into the room. She looked at me. Nobody spoke. Finally, I said, "Why?" She didn't answer. "Why did you do this to me?" Her eyes filled with tears. "I was jealous." I shook my head. You were jealous enough to destroy your own family. She looked down. I thought you were taking my place. You're my sister. I never wanted your place. She started crying. I thought after you got married, everyone would forget about me. I stepped closer. Emily, I never needed you to compete with me. She covered her face. For the first time, I saw my sister not as the cruel woman who had slammed a door in my face, but as someone who had made terrible choices because she was afraid. But fear doesn't erase consequences. My father changed the property documents back. Emily had to take responsibility for her debts, and she had to admit everything she had done. It took months before our family began to heal. I didn't move back into my parents' house. I didn't want to. Daniel and I continued building our own life. But eventually, Emily came to our apartment. She stood outside the door. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she said, I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I looked at her. You're right. She nodded. But I'm sorry. I opened the door wider. Come in. She started crying. Not because everything was magically fixed. Not because the past disappeared. But because, for the first time, she understood that family isn't about controlling someone. It isn't about being the favorite. It isn't about who gets the house. It's about loving someone enough to let them live their own life. Months later, I returned to my parents' house for Thanksgiving. This time, Emily opened the door. She smiled. Welcome home. I looked at her. Then I smiled back. Thank you. And as I walked inside, I realized something. That first day, she had slammed a door in my face and told me I didn't belong there anymore. But she was wrong. I didn't belong there because I was forced to. I belonged there because I was family. And even more importantly, I had finally learned that home isn't always the place where you were born. Sometimes home is the person who stands beside you when everyone else turns away. For me, that person was Daniel. And that painful day when my sister slammed the door in my face, it didn't destroy my family. It forced us to finally tell the truth. And sometimes the truth hurts before it heals. If you were standing outside that door, would you have knocked again or walked away forever? Tell me in the comments.